These individuals here are members of the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic fandom, and are also currently or have served while being a Brony in the United States Armed Forces. I have a short disclaimer to read that we have to read because for
To keep us out of trouble.
The
So that'd
government
be
makes
green,
us-
blue, green, blue.
So the short version is that while we are all members of the military or have been at some point, the opinions that we express up here are our own opinions, and they are not the opinions of the United States government, the Navy, the Army, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, or the Air Force. It's a service with some white boats.
It's part of the DoD, and in acts of war, it falls under the Navy.
I don't know. The Space Force is more than.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we,
what I was
we,
about to say.
we,
Anyway, so so anyway, just so you know, like what we say up here is what we believe. We are not acting as representatives of the U.S. military, so don't get that impression, please.
And you don't have to sign an NDA after this.
Yeah, no non-disclosure agreements will need to be signed at the end
We're
of this
not going
panel.
to get into secret school stuff.
you will not be Flash with some weird Flash to forget everything either.
Okay, James, if you want to take it away.
So this panel was originally structured with a PowerPoint, so please bear with us.
It would not be a military without
There's
PowerPoint.
going to be
It's a good
a few
PowerPoint, though.
minutes where each individual will speak about their experience being in their respective branches. And it'll be about 4 minutes apiece. And the first individual will be Lieutenant Commander Visser.
Thanks. Thanks for the applause. Hold your applause. Hey, so my name is Ted Visser. I am, as you just said, as of July 1st this month, I am a lieutenant commander in the U.S. Navy Reserves. So I just got promoted to lieutenant commander. I've been in the Navy for 10 years and change. I was 10 years in May. I did 7.5 years active duty, and I've done since then about 3.5 or 2.5 years reserve. And the goal is to retire as captain, working on that. I'm a surface warfare officer, which for those who are not into the Navy stuff is a ship driver, so I drive warships. In my civilian jobs, I actually teach people how to drive warships. In my military job right now, I'm the assistant officer in charge of a patrol boat squadron. So we drive 34-foot patrol boats, go fast. You might have seen us out on the harbor. If you're driving a sailboat and you get too close to an aircraft carrier, you've definitely seen us out there, because we don't like it much when people do that. Guys, the aircraft carrier weighs 100,000 tons. It's going to win. I commissioned in the Navy in 2008. I went to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C., go Hoyas, and did Navy ROTC there, which is a Reserve Officer Training Corps. It's basically like, it's like the Academy Light, where you go to college, but you also do Navy stuff at the same time, and then when you graduate, you become an officer. So I did that. My first ship was USS Anzio. Battle cry is Stand and Fight, out of Norfolk, Virginia. It's a cruiser. Cruisers are fairly heavily armed, 122 missiles, 2 5-inch guns, 1650 caliber machine guns, 2 25mm cannons, 2 20mm cannons, and am I missing something? Oh, 2 helicopters and missiles. Anyway, heavily armed. So I did that job. I did one deployment with Anzio. We went to the Gulf of Aden and did counter-piracy for 4.5 months, and some other stuff over in the Middle East and the Mediterranean. And then after that, I went to nuclear power school and prototype, where I learned how to operate nuclear reactors. The short version is this. Hot rock makes water hot, makes shaft go roundy roundy. That's the short version of how nuclear reactors work. So I did that for a year in Charleston, South Carolina, and then I went back to Norfolk to be aboard as the reactor propulsion division officer, so the guy in charge of the main engines of the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower CVN-69. I did that for 2 deployments, both in the Middle East again, doing launching planes. That's what carriers do. And then after that, I went on shore finally to San Diego, California. Yeah, here we are. And I was teaching the basic division officer course, so I was teaching young junior officers how to do my job. Did that for 2 years and decided to never leave California, so I got out of the active duty Navy, got my master's degree. And in the meantime, I ran 2 My Little Pony conventions. So I was many of my staff are in this room actually, but I was the chairman of Pacific PonyCon 2016 and 2017 here in San Diego. So I'm proud of what we put on there. Had 2 full-blown conventions. One was 600 people, and another one had 800 people, and it was a good time. I wish you guys were there. Some of you were. So either way, we did that. And then in the reserves, I still stayed in the Navy Reserves, and so yeah, I'm with the Patrol Boat Squadron, Coastal Riverine Squadron 1. Yeah, no one can see that, James. I'm also, before I turn it over to the next panelist, I'm also going to comment that James doesn't give himself enough credit. James is also a veteran. He was a medic in the United States Army. So he didn't want me to say that, but I wanted to say that, so it's happening. I am, for those who are counting, the highest ranking Brony that I know of. It looks like, though, there is someone in the audience who is a slightly more senior than me, in the same rank, though. So, sir. Welcome to the family. And then with that, I will turn it over to Tech Sergeant Sparks.
I have been in the military for almost 18 years. I enlisted the beginning of 2001, so I'm a pre-9/11 baby. My first 13 years, I served as security forces, so I did a lot of HUA stuff. Did only 4 deployments just because I worked as part of a CRG, so I did a lot of really cool TDYs.
What is a CRG and TDY?
So a TDY is a temporary duty station, so it's pretty much going overseas or in the desert, depending on where you go. I have been to Kuwait right after 9/11 kicked off. I opened up Kirkuk Air Force Base in Iraq, which was very exciting, getting shot at almost every single day. They nicknamed me the Rocket Magnet because as being one of the only, I was one of 3 girls. So the Mujahideen actively sought me out and shot rockets at me. And the closest that came to me was about 15 meters away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Close.
So
Good job.
I have felt the hair on my eyebrows singe because I was a female. It was really cool.
And
And then the kids, because I did a lot of trading with them, they would often warn me when they were coming for me. And yeah, that was good times. Then I spent about a year in Kyrgyzstan. Super awesome country, extremely cold. For those of you who aren't good at geography, it is next to Siberia, basically. So when it hit 0, we were taking layers off because it was kind of warm. But great country, very hospitable. I know it's filled with a bunch of Russians, but boy, do they have some good food. And then my last, when I was with the contingency response group out of Guam, which is basically the 911 response force for all of PACAF, I did a couple presidential support missions out of Vietnam. So I got to do some really cool stuff.
That she can't talk about.
No, I can talk about it. It's when I retrain that I can't talk about a lot of stuff. So I did get to go into the tunnels in the forests of Vietnam.
Wow.
And it was 20 minutes of them making us watch a VHS tape where they glorified their hero American war killers. And they were grinning ear to ear to make us watch it. And we were like, you know what, good for you guys. Because they spent a good 10 minutes of that 20 minutes talking about their female snipers. And I'm like, right on, guys. Communism. Everyone can shoot a gun. All right. But then we went in the tunnels, and the tunnels are about 100 degrees, and there are bats in them. And then you pop out of a tiny little square in the forest, and we're like, how did the Americans not see these guys just capping them left and right? And then our little guy got out, and he flipped the cover down, and he scooched some dirt over it with his foot, and it was mind-blowing because you would not have known that was there. And we're like, okay, that's how we got slaughtered. Got it. Good job, Vietnam. All right, so that was the last one before I retrained. After 13 years, the Air Force told me to retrain into intelligence, and that's what I do today. I have deployed to 2 different countries in Africa. I can't really talk about it. And I have deployed to Bagram again, which is not my favorite country. Afghanistan is God's toilet bowl. And I will be going back again here in September as the country subject matter expert. So yay, I'm totally excited about that. I've been a Brony since 2012. It started off with one of my really good friends. She went to Comic-Con. And she came back and told me about these guys who were dressed up as My Little Ponies. And to me, My Little Pony was back when I was a kid with Generation 1. And I'm like, that's really weird. It's making a comeback. She's like, yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, that's really weird. And then I started seeing the memes and the 4chan and like the mods are asleep, post ponies and all that stuff. I'm like, what is this? And I had 6 days off over the holiday, and I watched I watched season 1 and season 2 back to back. Season 3 was actively playing, so then I had to get on YouTube to watch the episodes, and I've been hooked ever since. I have cosplayed, who have I cosplayed as? I've done Maniac. I've done Star Swirled the Lady Bearded. I did that at Nightmare Nights last year. Oh God, what other ones have I done? So my latest iteration that I've done for well over a year now, because I started off with Fire Team Harmony, but to kind of like put a pin between the villains and the heroes between Fire Team Harmony, they said that the villains could not be Spartans. So after a very long discussion, we're like, okay, we'll do Destiny as the villains. And that began Task Force Chaos, which I run very loosely because I'm gone a lot. And so I have a Celestial Nighthawk Hunter class Guardian that I cosplayed as. I was in it most of the day today. I don't know if any of you saw me. Dylan here is a dead orbit guy, so we kind of stood out. But after being in it all day, I couldn't stand to be in it anymore because that costume does not breathe, so I had to change. Let's see, as Intel, I've done a lot of very interesting things that I can't talk about, but I did have to get instructor certified to teach people. And as my pick a subject, any subject, teach me something in 30 minutes, I picked the history of My Little Pony. My captain did not know what she had herself into. And so I did spin it on a military perspective of, like Rainbow Dash went to the Wonderbolts Academy. I'm like, yeah, basic training sucks. You're going to get yelled at. And a myriad of other things. And at the time, season 6 was in play. And if I had my slides, I would show you what I actually briefed. It was quite comical, and I had a lot of very sarcastic remarks in there. And now I'm going to hand it over to Dylan Main.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dylan Main. When I was a Sergeant Main. My MOS was 0431, which in layman's terms, that is an embarkation and logistics specialist. And
You move stuff.
Pretty much. My entire life was logistics. I made sure people got stuff. I made sure people get food, water, ammo, fuel, the 5B, my own. And we had to focus on the 5Bs, which is the beans, bullets, batteries, bad guys, and bandages.
You supplied bad guys?
Transportation for
prisoners.
Prisoners.
Got it.
And I only did 4 years. I got out because I'm not a logistics person, because no matter what you do, it's always your fault.
That's just the military.
And I was stationed over in Okinawa for about 2 years, and then I stationed rest of my contract in Camp Pendleton, and now I am studying game art and design to be a technical artist. And that is what I'm doing now. And
You don't have to take up the whole time.
okay, thank you.
Where'd you cosplay?
Oh, thank you. I cosplay many other things. Not just right now. I'm cosplaying as a hunter from the Dead Orbit faction from Destiny, and I also cosplay with Fire Team Harmony folks, but they're based in Michigan area, so I can't really do much with them because I live here. And but I cosplay as a ODST Spitfire. And if you went to any of the Brony cons like Babs, you'd see a bright yellow character walking around. It's bright yellow, hard to miss. And
Can't miss him.
and that would be my spiel. And I'm heading over to Zach here.
Like you said, my name's Zach. I'm a corporal in the Marine Corps. I'm a helicopter mechanic. I work on Hueys and Cobras. Probably see them flying around here if you live around here. I don't have any of these crazy things that they've done. I've only been to Okinawa. It's not really too huge of a deal. So, what was that? You didn't do anything bad in Okinawa. No, I was
No.
not. I wouldn't be here right now. I would be rotting
wasn't
in a
in Japanese.
Japanese. Yeah, I'd be rotting in a
He wasn't
Japanese
in
jail.
It's just a Marine doing bad things in Oki. I've seen worse.
Or Gay 2 Street.
Oh, yes.
It's island madness.
That is the thing there. That is the thing.
Anyways, haven't been anywhere too crazy. I guess one of the more significant things that happened during my enlistment is I met my awesome husband back there that's filming. So I'll go ahead and just tell you that story because it's pretty funny. And it's, when I first got to my unit, I wasn't super open about being a brony. I didn't really care what people thought. It was just more of a convenience thing because I would have to answer questions then. And I just didn't want to deal with it. And there was another guy that was also from North Carolina there, and they said I looked like him. And they used to make fun of him for being a brony, even though he's not. So they're like, okay, do a Matt Smith impression. Okay, so I did it. I'm like, okay, name a pony on My Little Pony. And I froze there for a second. I was like, well, I can't answer this too fast because if I do, they're going to know. But I'm not going to just say Rainbow Dash because that's what everybody would say. So I sat there for a second and I said, Twilight Sparkle. And then
Best horse.
he followed me out of the shop because they sent me home. I had to do this to go home. He followed me out of the shop, and then it was all downhill from there.
He followed you home.
Yeah. I mean,
Mark was also in the Marine Corps. Wave hi, Mark. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark. Can't continue with the rest of that reference.
I think I'm going to get out after my 5 years are up, so about 6 months I'll be out and see where life takes me. So I'm going to pass this on to John Paul over here.
Specialist. How's it going, guys? My name is John Paul Ducos. I've been a specialist in the Army for now a good 6 years, but I've been in the United States Army for a good 12 to 11 right now. I started my career back in 2007 as a U.S. Army infantryman. I went into the recruiter and told him I want to jump out of planes and blow up stuff, and that was the easiest recruitment that he ever had that day. After training in 2007, I got sent to glorious Fort Benning, Georgia, Benning School for Boys. And after succeeding initial entry training into the infantry school, I was selected to go into U.S. Army Sniper School, where I learned for the last 5 weeks how to become a sniper for the U.S. Army. And then after that, I got sent to the Fort Benning Airborne School as part of my contract, and I learned how to jump out of planes. After that, I got stationed in Fort Bragg, North Carolina with the 173rd Airborne and the 103rd Regiment. And then after that, they told me, congratulations, Private, you were about to be sent in 2008 to Afghanistan. That was part of Obama's giant push into the Search and Destroy initiative. We did some things over there. We lost some guys, and I don't like to deliberate a lot about that because that's a very dark time in my time. After I came back after my 16-month deployment in Afghanistan from 2008 to 2009, I was given the chance to re-enlist into the Army Reserves, and I took the opportunity to go to school. Ended up graduating in 2012 from my bachelor's degree in graphic arts and photography, along with educational courses as a teacher. But as one of the things I reclassed in was mortuary affairs, which we're responsible basically for the evacuation and movement of war heroes. Every time, if you ever wonder how does a person who dies in war gets to where he does back in the United States, it's because we enacted a law back during World War I to get everybody who dies during war back to the United States. Depending on the situation, mostly World War II was one of those situations we just couldn't get a lot of people back on time. So we had to inter them in sight. And that's still a law which is still happening till this day. I've done suitable amount of missions with the Mortuary Affairs Units 311 of Wadi Yaremi Air Force Base. We have deployed to the 2010 was the Haiti earthquake?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I ended up deploying for 3 months in Haiti until I got rotated by our sister unit to 246. And that was a very interesting time for my life. I've never been into basically an earthquake zone in my life. We ended up doing rotation. I've done rotations all over the world with this job. Okinawa, Japan, South Korea, South Germany, Italy, and multiple areas around the United States, just filling in positions in different mortuaries all over the hospitals we have. Even here in at some point in San Diego, up in Pendleton, that was interesting. Right now, I'm reclassing into an intelligence field, which at the moment I can't say much what I'm doing. Let's just say I have been deployed into some areas in the border within the United States and Mexico, and it involves a lot of things when it comes to trying to keep our nation safe. My experiences in the Army as a Brony, I hadn't had any problems. Usually, when I became a Brony in general was during the 2012 push when a lot of things were happening in 4chan. I was like, what is this show? I'm like, I kept watching it, and so one day I decided to say, oh, it's on Netflix. So I watched the entire season, and I've been hooked since then. But by then, I was already inside of the U.S. Army Reserves, and a lot of people in Puerto Rico, when it comes to those units, they don't tend to ask a lot about your hobbies, mostly about how's your family, how's your friends. So I've never been disregarded on that fact, but I do call myself really proud of being part of this fandom, and it's actually been quite a giant joy of being part of it. That flag over there, as you see, I made that. It was a 3-week push to make that because it went to one of the most infamous conventions. And did I still got time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It went to one of the most infamous conventions in the entire fandom. It was Las Pegasus Unicon in Las Vegas. That was a Titanic of a convention. So I remember Mish told me, "How long do you have to make this guide on?" And he's like, "Give me about 3 weeks." And about 3 weeks later, it was on. About a week later, it was on its way to Las Vegas to get picked up, and that's where it showed up. And then later, I was actually following this entire. 1 minute, 1 second.
1 minute.
1 minute. I was actually following like this entire convention in through a stream, and I was like, all right, let me see where this flag is, and that's where everything exploded. I saw this thing demolish itself all the way down. So the stream that's the longest on there is basically there because it's a commemoration to how bad people had it there, and it was a scam in its own plate. But I have had a lot of fun with these guys here, online and offline. If this is the first time me meeting all of you guys, and it's been a blast.
For those of you who are military or veterans, we do have 2 different websites. I am an admin of Military Bronies. I was an admin of Semper Philly, but I recently stepped down because my personal life kind of ramped up.
Yeah.
But we have those
Semper Philly
two.
is good.
Yeah, we have those 2 sites on Facebook. Military Bronies is an open group. Semper Philly is a closed group. So if you aren't comfortable with people knowing that you're a Brony, I recommend getting into Semper Philly because it won't show up on your timeline and people won't know what you're doing in there.
Yeah.
And we're a really good group of people. We post a lot of really good memes.
It is, however, a
No
secret group. It's
screenshots,
invite
though.
only, so you do need to come to see one of us to get invited.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do not. You first rule of Semper Fi, you do not talk about it.
You don't. Yeah.
You
Well,
don't speak of it outside this room.
right. Yeah. What happens in Semper Philly stays there.
Yes, we are very protective of each other, and we will help you out if you
Yeah.
need it.
Real quick before Lyle goes, just he talked about the guidon there, just so everyone knows. Guidons are military traditions, right? It's a flag that goes with your unit, and the streamers that are hanging from it are typically from campaigns. So every time your unit's involved in some battle or another, there's a new streamer that goes on the flag. And so we actually have one. We'll do a little presentation of it later for Comic-Con because the streamer made it, because the guidon made it here. But it's every streamer that's on there is a convention or event that flag has been to. So
It's still growing on its own, and I'm pretty glad about that. I'm quite surprised of how these guys and most of us have been pushing to keep it going this so long since the fandom has been dumbing down. But this is the first convention, non-pony convention it's been to. Most of those are all pony conventions. Some of them have come and gone. And so, but the testament of their will, even like Equestria LA is still on there twice. So it's been around.
Okay.
It's been around.
anyway, let's let Lyle go.
All right, Lyle. Last day with the Lance Corporal.
All right, so I'm Lyle Gilpatrick. I've been a Brony since 2011, late 2011. And so I'm a Marine Corps infantryman, and
Now, tell us how you really got started in the fandom, Lyle.
come on, Lyle.
Can we just get a picture of your dad on the screen?
I've heard there's a certain documentary on Netflix that you're in.
Well, that picture that you're talking about, Zach, is actually on my slide, right next to me doing an imitation of it.
The face of a broken man.
So I don't know if any of you remember, but back in 2012, there was this massive Kickstarter project for a documentary about the fan base, and it raised like 600% of its funding goal or something like ridiculous. And I was prominently featured in that.
Prominently.
Yeah.
Prominently.
And so, if any of you have seen it, and I don't know if any of you remember the one kid who like is talking to his parents about being a brony, and then he drags them to BronyCon. I was that kid. Like literally, that was actually me. And
Yeah, it has become a meme among us military bronies of Lyle's dad's face because he's got this like expression on his face.
Half of the time when we're
As when Lyle imitated that meme, and so now we have like a side by side of him and his dad doing the same face about how disappointed they are in Lyle.
it was well, and then
I still remember that scene of that documentary.
And then
oh, Jesus.
a few years after, somebody took like some screenshots with the subtitles on of me, like, you know, as a little teenager going like, oh, I don't know how my dad feels about me being a brony because he's really quiet about it. And that's just a picture of my dad, like 2 frames of him, one of him looking like this, and the next one of him looking like this. And so that face has kind of become a running gag.
His dad was a meme in our group for so long, and then poor Lyle joined the Marines, and we're like, oh God, we have to.
So long. It's like every time we had to use it, we would use it in such a way that it would just be so glorious. And then when we heard that he joined, we're like, oh no.
It's like we have to
He's
get
a-
in this group. We have to.
He has to know.
And well, yeah, I believe a lot of times, probably the most common way we use that face now is whenever I post something that screams boot.
Yes.
Your other alias.
Yes, Lyle is our super boot in the group.
Yeah, for those who don't know
he
what
broke
we mean.
he broke Brogan's record of being the super boot.
So there's a guy. So for those who don't know what boot is, right? Boot camp. When you just get out of boot camp, you're super motivated about the military constantly and have no idea how to function in real life. That's being a boot.
When you have super duper adventures using your Marmy money when you start off, that's being a boot.
So as far as my
Hey, you didn't buy a Mustang, so you're good so far.
No
Yeah.
Mustangs.
yeah, I've avoided that. Although I hear that the higher the interest rate, it means the more interesting your vehicle is.
It means it goes
Throw my phone at
faster.
you.
It's about
But,
50% faster.
We've got PowerPoint.
Oh yes.
Oh, thank God.
Now slide through all the slides.
And we're loading.
Can we get
Hi,
another
sir.
30 minutes?
Keep going, Lyle. We're rooting
So,
for you.
in regards to my military career, I first walked into the recruiter's office in November 2013, and this was right when they were starting to downsize.
How old were you in November 2013?
17.
Really? You were that old?
Did you
Making
happen
the senior people at this end of the table feel old over here?
Did you happen to catch your dad's 2 picture frames during that moment?
In what mode?
And then the moment you said you're going to be joining the Marine Corps.
Oh, yeah, my dad wanted me to join the Navy, so that disappointed face came up again. But
Oh, we got it. We're up.
guys.
so this was right when they were starting to downsize, and I wasn't like the fittest person in the world, so they pretty much told me no, which is fun, which is very contrary to what you hear from a lot of recruiters, or
They
a
stole
lot
me
of
from the Air
recruiting
Force.
stories.
Like, legitimately stole me. There's like, Air Force guy wasn't there, and it's like, hey, we'll cross the
No,
border.
dude, like I tried to recruit into the Air Force, into the Coast Guard, and they didn't want me.
But yeah, but when you're going for the Marines, that's like.
We'll just press control.
But so then they basically said they said come back in a year, and so I came back a year later, and they basically told me no again. So I was like, okay, well I'm just gonna talk to a different recruiter then. So the next recruiter I talked to reported to the recruiters that I was already talking to, and so he allowed me to go to a delayed entry program meeting, which is like when you first like sign the papers to join, but you haven't left for boot camp yet. They have like these monthly meetings to like make sure you're physically sound and everything. And so he invited me to go to one as a guest. And so I went to that one as a guest, and the next one as a guest. I did that for a whole 3rd year, and eventually they said, okay, well, you're clearly motivated, you've made progress, so we'll send you down to processing and see where we go from there. And so I went through that. Then I went through boot camp, and at this point it was January 2017. And so then I went on an infantry contract. I was really adamant about that. I really wanted to be an infantryman. And so I went through boot camp. They came back. They're like, okay, so next is School of Infantry. What infantry job are you hoping to get? Because in the Marine Corps, you can choose your your field that you work in, but you can't choose the specific job within that field. So you can choose if you want to go administration, logistics, mechanics, or infantry, all that, but you can't choose a specific job within that. So I was like, well, I really want to be a rifleman, but I'm okay with anything as long as I'm not an LAV crewman, because that's an infantry MOS. And
Technically.
so the crew's like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. So I go to School of Infantry. I get to where they call it the split, which is you go through 1 month of just basic infantry training, and then there's another month of when they set you into a specific job. And the LAV crewman guys showed up one day looking for volunteers, and nobody volunteered, and then they left, and I figured, okay, that's all said and done, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. And they put me in with the riflemen when we got to the split, and I was like, oh, this is all working out perfectly. And then they were like, hey, you're qualified to be an LAV crewman. And they were like, go stand in that line over there. You're going to California to learn how to drive LAVs. And so,
That is called being voluntold.
yep. And so, yeah, I've been driving LAVs since. Semi-driving. I got
Have we learned our lesson about volunteering, Lyle?
All right. Yeah. So that's Lyle's story. James, what do we got next on here?
So next are questions for the panel.
Bring it.
Ooh, we have something.
Bring it. We're ready.
It's either that or we're gonna keep talking and we can talk for, yeah. what you
Yeah,
got,
we
man?
could talk for a long time. If you want to hear my sob story. Wait,
Where's that?
James, are you opening up to questions, or you've got questions?
Yeah, so actually, we are opening up to questions. Here's some pictures from the previous slides that.
Yes,
you did
that's that
see
horse is
earlier.
me.
I could draw. Commissions
Here-
are good.
Here's Tech Sergeant Sparks'
I do
slide.
cosplay. I do. Oh yeah, I once stole the guide on at Pacific Pony Con. There I am in my bed.
I was worried about that. I was like, where did it go?
Here are some slides from the class that she taught.
Oh,
She
yeah.
was going to give some hip training, but as you can see, our time was kind of consumed
Yeah,
already.
I made a go back one. Go back
here's,
one. Go back. Go
Sergeant-
back. This is my association slide. I'm super proud of.
Is this,
As
is this
you
an
can
org
tell,
chart?
Chrysalis is best villain.
She made an org chart for My
I
Little
did.
Pony.
I made an organization chart. I have all sorts of things like communism doesn't work.
You are such a senior
Yeah.
NCO.
Sombra
Anyway.
was defeated by spousal abuse. Luna's got some PTSD, which I will talk about here in a little bit. The Tantabus. Actually, you know what? I'll talk about it now since this thing's up. So for those of you who don't remember the episode, because I can talk all day, because I'm intel and I'm used to briefing people. So the Tantabus in the episode Do Princesses Dream of Magic Sheep, you saw that Princess Luna was dealing with some major emotional issues of, the fact that she was a bad guy for 1,000 moons. And basically she created this Tantabus to punish herself. And she was, withdrawn from her friends and, all the typical symptoms that you would see from PTSD. And it started affecting everybody else because obviously the Tantabus got out into other people's dreams. And so people started noticing that she started showing all the signs. And they went and they got together and they gave her the help that she needed and said, hey, you need to forgive yourself because we've already forgiven you. And this is a really big deal in our group because we have lost some friends in the recent years. We will talk about some of that here in a little bit. But we have lost several of our friends in the groups to PTSD-related suicides. And so here, after the brief, these are completely free, but I have made some vinyl stickers with the Tantabus. Some of them have 22 on them, some of them don't. It's up to you on what you want to take. I have enough for everyone in the room. I think there's 37 of you, and I have like 38 of these, so it kind of it works out. But 22 is the number of average veterans that kill themselves every single day. So what you want to do with it, I don't care. You can take one if you want one, but it's just our way of raising awareness for what is very near and dear to our hearts because we don't want veterans to kill themselves.
Working in the field as a mortuary affairs specialist, I also work alongside veterans who have had these problems before. And then, believe you me, having to talk to a family who has just had their father or son or daughter lost to suicide themselves, it's not an easy movement, knowing that they have to come through our table. And to me, having an empty table is great because it means that we can get to keep someone alive every day. So, if you ever have a chance of talking or sitting down and just listening to the person who's hurting, that's all you need, just a couple minutes or even a couple hours just to listen to their problems.
Listening or knowing how to get them help. There's plenty of 1-800 numbers. There's a suicide hotline. For any of you who are active military, we all know the CARE acronym. Just get somebody to the help that they need as quickly as possible. Don't leave them alone and don't think, oh, they'll be all right, because you don't know if they're going to be all right. And sometimes, and unfortunately sometimes, people don't show symptoms and it takes you completely by surprise. But we do just want to raise awareness. This is the heaviest part of anything that I'm going to say because we have a lot of really funny stories. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to move on to some lighthearted stuff. Yay!
So here are some slides that we missed earlier. Here's for Sergeant Main.
Yeah, this is basically a dumbed down version of my Marine Corps career. And now,
I like the dabbing.
yeah.
Sorry. Here's for Corporal Carruthers.
Just a real quick thing on that slide. That's my cranial, the helmet that I wear for work. My guys in my shop actually made that backing for me. I've always had pony backings, and I generally just go by Bronies, so.
And there's the super boot right next to him in that picture there.
Yep.
Super boot.
Again, here's Specialist Dukos'
As you
slide.
can tell, a lot of our OCs have made their way into the 1st Awesome Platoon, which pokes fun at military living.
Yeah,
Here
but
is the picture that our horse famous Lance Corporal there at the end of the panel.
Those
And a
chubby
picture
little
of his
cheeks.
father from the Bronies documentary.
man, you lost some weight, man.
Yeah. And I look like I'm 12 in that picture, but I was 15.
I really thought you were 12.
Yeah.
I really thought you were 12. I'm like, wait, the math isn't adding up.
So before I open the panel to questions, this is something that I've wanted to do. If anyone has watched the Inside the Actor Studio, they normally ask 10 questions to the panel, but we'll only ask 9 because this is supposed to be a PG panel, and I see that we have one minor in
Please cover
the
her
audience
disease.
here. So going from seniority, from officer down to the lowest ranking junior enlisted, what is your favorite word?
Oh, starting with me?
Put me on the spot here.
I know curse words.
You're the
Quickly,
last
sir.
one. I know which direction we're going.
It is your favorite word.
Evidently.
Accoutrements.
Sergeant?
Give me a minute on this one.
Come on, Sarge.
Come on, Marine.
No, it wasn't that. It was logistics related.
Inventory.
No. Because every single time I hear this word, I cringe when I did logistics.
Moist.
No, it was
Expeditiously.
Moist.
it was assume.
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 Do
If
not
you ever
assume.
hear someone in logistics say assume,
Don't say it. We can't say
it
that word.
never happened. You cannot depend on
Don't
it
assume
whatsoever.
anything.
You can't
Keep
depend on
going.
that dude's word if they say assume. Because if they say assume, nothing's gonna be moving, and if nothing's moving, no ops happening.
Thank you, Sergeant. Corporal?
I'm going to assume that we can do work-related words here.
It doesn't bother me now because I got out of it, but still.
We may have to go with swash plate.
A what?
Swash plate. It's a helicopter part.
Yeah, it's a helicopter plate. Swash, like swashbuckling, but with
Where's
plate.
that located?
Next, please.
It's on the head.
The rotor hub.
It
Next.
transfers non-rotating movements to rotating movements to control it.
Is that the weight that goes up?
That
and down?
definitely doesn't
No.
work with
Next,
CP
please.
22.
Mr. Dukos?
Anyway.
Specialist Dukos?
What?
Specialist
Oh, it's
Dukos,
me.
what's
It's
your
me.
favorite
Okay.
word?
I'm gonna go with believed to be.
Believed to be?
I can see it.
That's a dangerous
We
one.
hate that one in the intel.
Lance Corporal?
Same. I believe this.
I can't.
is
Yeah, I can't believe that word actually followed me into intelligence. That's surprisingly.
Lance
Nick.
Corporal? Your answer, please.
I actually saw a thread on this the other day, and I was thinking, what words are kind of cool? And I thought visceral was it's a pretty aesthetic word. Actually, aesthetic's a pretty aesthetic word too.
That's my other second favorite word. Boy.
Okay, let's try to make the answers a little faster now. What is your least favorite word?
I was gonna say
totally did.
shipmate, but that can be funny in the right circumstances.
Oh yeah.
I totally did backwards.
We'll come back to you.
Yeah.
Tech
Sorry.
Sergeant,
So many things.
Oh, what was my least
least favorite word, please.
Mustangs.
Butt sangs.
Sergeant?
I did mine backwards because I thought it was least.
What's your favorite?
I can't say bad words.
No, let's find out. So
Okay.
give us a good vocabulary lesson.
Moving on. Corporal.
I eat crayons. I go to art school.
Crayons. That's it.
Come on.
Anyway,
Corporal.
next.
Skip me for
You have to
now.
go with devil here because as a Marine, if anybody ever calls you devil, you're probably about to get yelled at.
Specialist.
That's true of shipmate in the Navy as well.
I think my least favorite word is always going to be, can I get a volunteer? Just volunteer itself.
Volunteer.
No, I think
Take out the
volunteer.
spaces.
Lance Corporal.
Actually,
Seeing as most people on this panel are NCOs, they're probably going to hate me for this, but behoove.
The next
Can't
question.
say I've actually said
oh,
behoove.
Sergeant,
It would behoove you to be quiet so you can go on to the next
I don't
question.
say that. I just tell people to shut up.
Sergeant, have you come up with your answer yet? Commander, have you come up with your answer
I
yet?
already told you guys my least. I don't really have a favorite word.
Persnickety.
Periwinkle.
Why is it with P's?
I don't know. It's in my head right
polish.
I'm going to go with saved rounds.
Kill. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to go with saved rounds. You hear that at the end of every briefing. Does anyone have any saved rounds? No, I would have said it during the damn brief if I had to take a
Faster,
shot.
faster now. What turns
I
you
do
on?
like that word. Brain just
Whoa,
hot.
wait.
Oh,
Creative, spiritually,
creatively,
or emotionally?
Creatively, spiritual. Well, I mean, I'm in the Navy and I freaking love boats.
Okay, what's turns
So boats. among
That's a
other
loaded
things.
question for me.
I really like shooting guns, so if they tell me it's range day, I am there.
That's a huge loaded question for me. Because
We don't want to hear about your after hours. Art.
no, I'm trying to be a technical artist, and come on.
3D
Anything.
line art.
I want to say 60 frames animation done smoothly that is pleasingly with the shades of blue and that smooth high def
Hey,
renders.
at least he knows what he likes.
I'm gonna have to go. This is up in the air between shooting and driving fast. I really like to drive
That's
fast
true.
in the desert, off road,
Oh,
and
bites.
rally race. It's
Yeah,
really
I
awesome.
do rally racing too. So
Wow, you took the words out of my mouth, Zach. Like, I'd like to do the same thing. If it isn't freaking shooting guns every week, sorry.
Subaru life is best.
RS is
Super.
better.
Where's your vape?
You're
No,
missing
it-
the
If it
Chevy
isn't
S10.
if it isn't like racing or drifting in the weekends or shooting guns, I'm always there. It's one of the best things, and spending time with my girlfriend over there is always time. It was always awesome too.
That'll do it.
Wow.
Making progress on lat moving.
On what?
Lat moving. Lat moving.
Gotcha.
Oh, getting out of yeah.
Okay, quickly, faster now. What turns you off?
Admin.
Paperwork.
Not being able to ride my motorcycle.
Yeah, that would turn me off too. I ride a dark blue Harley called Princess Luna. It's loud, makes lots of noise.
California.
I disagree.
I just learned about the bag tax last night. That is some craziness.
Okay,
10 cents
moving
for
on.
one.
Anyway,
Mr.
Sitting
Dudos.
and waiting.
Thank you.
Paperwork.
Sitting and waiting.
What sound do you love and what sound do you hate? Quickly.
Sound that I love. Yeah, motorcycle noises. Sound of my Harley. Sound that I hate. The damn the bosun's whistle for reveille in the morning on the ship. It's this loud whistle that goes on for like a minute and 30 seconds, and it's just ear-piercingly loud and high-pitched, and it means you have to get out of bed.
I love the sound of turbo noises, and I absolutely hate the sound of mosquitoes.
Ooh, good one.
I like the scale riffs of guitars and metalcore, and I hate the sound of country music.
I love the sound of guns cocking and shooting, and I hate the sound of APUs, which are these annoying little jet engines that we have on our helicopters that power things when it's on the ground, and they are ear-piercingly loud, and they go straight through your ear pro. And now I can hear them in my head.
I hate those two.
I love the sounds of the little frogs named Coquis from my home in Puerto Rico, and I hate the sound of cicadas. God, do I hate the sound of cicadas.
Benning do that to you?
I love the sound of the Marine Corps hymn, "Oorah."
Boot.
Get out, boot.
And I hate the sound of the alarm clock. Like on the iPhone, the default alarm clock sound.
Ah, yeah.
So we're under 10 minutes
Yeah,
here, so
that
let's
one.
go ahead and skip the rest of these.
Yeah, let's go.
I was thinking about the next
We
one.
have about 3 minutes for questions, so I'll take 7 minutes for questions. So we'll take 2 questions.
We had his question
There
in
you
the front row first.
Right.
Hi, I'm Secretary Rubino, Davis North America First Base, Bronies since 2011.
You're a ways away from home.
I drove here.
Right on.
Nice. Thank you for serving, sir.
And I just
Don't call him sir.
was going to ask all of you
Oh.
now here, it's going to take too long, so maybe 3 of you. Tell me who your favorite pony is and why.
Derpy, because she is best pony.
Spitfire because Wonderbolts.
Daring Do because you can't beat Pony Indiana Jones.
Twilight Sparkle because she's smarter than you and she knows it.
Next question.
Oh, look at you guys.
Oh.
Frenzies.
Twinsies.
It's all right. We're officers. We don't have morale. We're not real people.
I sham a lot.
I hate seeing you guys.
Oh, my.
That one's
Hey,
weird.
so I know I'm not an NCO, but can I
That
jump in on
one's
this one because
weird.
I have a great story.
Oh, I have good stories too, but go ahead. Go
Sorry.
ahead,
Well, you know,
officer.
I am senior. No. So I kept being a Brony secret initially from everybody. When I was on, I became a Brony in early 2012 after my ex-wife left me. It was my way of feeling happier about life. A typical Navy story, except for the whole horse thing. So anyway, so I became that, and then I was on deployment, and the entire department found out because I was making subtle references while I was operating a nuclear reactor. I would say silly stuff like the reactor needs to be about 20% cooler, which was technically accurate. So I said that, and one of the electronics technicians operating the reactor with me got the joke,
That's
but
how you know he's a Brony.
he got the joke, but he also had absolutely no subtlety at all and called me out in front of everyone else in the reactor control room. And the entire reactor department, all 440 of them, knew within about 6 hours. And I, at this point, was lieutenant, and I was supposed to be in charge of a division, and I had to constantly fight to get them to do what I needed them to do without asking me about, why do you like horses? What are you into? Why are you into My Little Pony? What other kids' cartoons are you in? Can you sing me the My Little Pony theme? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I literally sometimes had to yell at people like, "Shut up! Turn around! Do your job!" It got very frustrating.
I do have to say that the fact that you're a Brony shouldn't have anything to do with your level of professionalism in the workforce. I have made absolutely no secret as to who I am. Everybody knows exactly where I'm at right now, and they know what I'm doing. They know that I'm going to dress up and I'm going to look fabulous while I'm doing it. And I don't care because when I get back to work, I get stuff done, and I make sure and I hold my people accountable to make sure that they get their stuff done too. If you let people walk over you because you're a Brony, that's ridiculous because they have hobbies too. They might like to do quilt work, or they might like to work on cars, or they might like to be bodybuilders. That's their hobby. Well, I say because I do like to work on cars, and I have been a bodybuilder in the past until my body stopped letting me do that. You know, and that was something that I said. Like, I have a lot of manly hobbies to offset the fact that I'm a nerd, but you know, but it doesn't matter, because what makes you feel good about yourself or relax at the end of the day is up to you. And everyone has their hobbies, and you shouldn't judge somebody because, well, there are illegal hobbies that you should not do. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with being a brony. So, I mean, it's just how you conduct yourself. And if you let somebody pick on you and you show weakness, like you're ashamed of yourself, they're going to keep picking on you, because that's humans. That's human nature. They're going to pick on the weakest link. But if you're like, yeah, I'm a brony, I don't care. And when I first got to the unit that I'm at, I work for AFSOC right now, which is Air Force Special Forces. And they're really, you know, they're like the manliest of the manly. And they're like, oh, look at this nerd. And I'm like, okay, yeah, so. And they used to bring me ponies. Like, I was at Walmart and I found ponies. And I'm like, cool, thanks, bro. I'm going to put it right here on my desk. And they're like, oh, well, it doesn't bother her. I'm like, nope, I got myself a Fluttershy and I got a Twilight Sparkle. What else you got? Like, you know, be like, I don't care. And they're going to realize that they can't get you, and it's not going to faze them anymore.
So we'll do this later after the presentation. So we don't have time for this. However, I would like to remember Specialist Benjamin Calvin. You can learn more about him by going to the QR code. He's one of...
Right. And he was a very big supporter of Mission 22. There are several different charities to support our 22 average veterans a day that commit suicide. There's Kill 22 and there's Mission 22 that I know of, but there's a whole slew of other communities. But he was very active in Mission 22, and without any symptoms or warnings, he took his life last August.
Yeah, we actually have a song he wrote that we sing in his memorial usually, but I don't know if we're gonna have time to actually perform it.
No.
But it's to the tune of "Blood on the Risers," which is to the tune of "Glory" of the Battle Hymn of the Republic, and it's pretty funny, but also pretty vulgar. So we can't sing in this form anyway.
It is a little 18+ saying that we're not going to clop anymore.
Those of you who are old enough should know what that means. But anyway, we just wanted to make sure that we memorialized Ben, because he was a good dude.
And again, I do have I have enough vinyl decals for everybody in the audience. They go on cars, they can go on walls, they can go on hydro flasks. They stick to anything. Laptops. They stick to absolutely everything.
Thank you, everyone, for attending. So if you would like, after the